Hey y'all, welcome to Crescent Gaming. I'm Lucy, and today we got a really good one in store for you, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. And as you can see here on the screen, here's the total score review and the breakdown for Guild Wars 2. Now what we're going to do is go into depth a little bit on each of the 6 categories so you guys can get a little bit better understanding on how we rate the games and how everything's scored, and what you need to know and be wary of if wary of anything at all. So let's get right into it. Even though the game may be close to 9 years old, it is still one of the best looking games out right now. I must give credit to where it is due, and the art team did a fantastic job making a truly one-of-a-kind art style, which makes for an incredibly immersive world and environments. As you can see, some of the transitions in the different topography are really neat. Notably, some of the swamps in the game really make you feel like you're there. The spell and ability effects are also very satisfying. Each class not only has its own unique combat playstyle, but overall visual effects and animations are unique to that class. The only thing that could be said is that from time to time, particularly huge squad content, 50 plus people kind of doing the same thing like a world boss or a meta event, there can be a lot of visual noise or screen clutter that can interfere with being able to see what's going on, meaning it might be hard to track a target, a certain mob, maybe a certain ground targeting AoE that the boss may be placing. Now the zones are instants, but they are big even at the start. As you progress towards max level zones, not only do they get bigger, but they become more 3D in the sense that you can interact with them more, such as getting to places you couldn't reach before having the correct mount. Now the game's performance is pretty good even on high settings for a decent gaming rig. However, there is an add-on that enables DX12 to be used, and it does make the game run much smoother. It would be nice to see the dev team add that into the base game. The soundtrack and ambient effects are also top-notch. I couldn't stop myself.
Yo, what the heck?
Oh, wow. As you can see here, we're just messing around in the guild hall. This is actually an event that our leader put together just to kind of get some of the new people to meet each other and get to greet each other and just kind of, hang out and get that guild feeling. And that is the point. I mean, right? In an MMO is to meet people and play with other people. So especially here in Guild Wars, I mean, literally it's in the name, Guild Wars. So, guilds are very important, and it's a multi-guild system. So you can be in up to 5 at a time and represent only one, which would be next to the side of your name. And that which is kind of rolling right into my next point, which the zones are usually always populated. You're always going to see somebody else around. You'll probably end up rezzing some random person, or you might be that random person that gets rezzed. You're definitely going to feel that presence. Another great thing they added is the mentor and the commander system. And basically it helps you as a new person to get into a squad or a group if you're either in World v World, or if you're just on a world map somewhere and there's an event going on and you're not really too sure what to do. Usually you can just join up on one of these guys, either with the apple or the little crown over their head. There's a squad, and you just kind of follow the Zerg, And if you're new, that's fine. Don't worry about dying. A lot of people die, and everyone's usually, pretty helpful in making sure you get back up and at least making sure you get the loot. All in all, it's a pretty solid community, and of course, there's tons of online resources. That's good. Yes, the cash shop. Great. Anyway, might as well start by saying that the game is free to play. Unfortunately, the expansions you still do have to buy, and you will be content locked without those 2 expansions. The most notable thing that'll keep you behind would be the mount system. You will also not be able to play any of the elite specializations for any of the 8 classes. 9 classes if you have the expansions. And the 2 elite specializations for each class are pretty unique, and they do bring a different playstyle to the game. However, the core builds are still viable. And as you can see, there's not only tons of skins on the market for not only you, your character, but also for the mounts as well. And there's quite a few mounts, so there's a lot of skins to get. Now, along with outfits and skins, you can also get some more useful items such as permanent salvage kits and of course permanent inventory space for either your character, the bank, or your material bag. So it can kind of be a little gimmicky from time to time. Now, the true saving grace here for the cash shop for Guild Wars 2 is what you're seeing on screen right now, and that is being able to get gold and get gems. So you can either use your in-game currency that everybody gets, which is gold, silver, and copper, and buy gems, or vice versa. You can use a little credit card power, get some gems, and then get gold. So anything that's in the cash shop can be acquired by anybody. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit longer if you spend the real gold, but the opportunity to do that and get the expansions and anything you want is there. So it's actually a really great system I wish more companies would use. Again, one of the few games left that still rewards players for achievements. Hell, just getting the Griffin mount is semi-grindy, not to mention the full-blown flying sky scale mount. Both take a considerable amount of time and resources, more particularly for newer players who don't yet have a steady gold income. We kind of haven't figured that something out yet. In fact, a lot of skins and extra goodies are locked behind achievements only, so there's definitely room for flexing. Now, the road to legendary gear is a long one. Yes, you can change the stats of legendary gear on the fly as long as you're out of combat, but that light armor tune still can't wear heavy, so even choosing what tune to make your first set of legendary can be tedious, especially if you're like me and like to play multiple tunes. Now, the quickest way to get ascended pieces is by raiding, but that is currently the hardest content of the game, so it's not really for new folks. Aside from that, there's also a bazillion currencies in the game, which make for a very odd looking currency tab on your character sheet. It's pretty overwhelming for a new player, especially when trying to figure out what content you need to do to get the said currency, and then where to spend it. Now, another great part about grinding in this game is that for the most part, it's actually really fun, even though you need to get a ton of maybe one thing. And what I mean by that is there's not really too many tedious things that are attached to any of the tasks you may like to do, whether it be PvE or PvP. I mean, they still do have some things, like the mount farming, for instance, that's very tedious, and then getting all the skills and the masteries. But for the most part, anything that you want to go for and have a long-term goal, as long as you keep working at it, you will get there. And there is tons of content, so you will have plenty to do. First, let me start off talking about the combat. So there's 2 ways you can play the game. You can either do a combat, it's kind of like a hybrid tab target and action combat system, or you can do a full-blown live action system similar to ESO or BDO. Now that comes with obviously a camera change and a different way to play, and you also have to set up your keybinds because in this mode, which you can see here on the screen while I'm fighting this world boss, there obviously is no mouse, so you have to know what keys and, get a little muscle memory and figure out exactly what's most comfortable for you. Now, it's also important because there's tons of different things you can do here. I mean, hell, if you want, you can spend 1 day farming just one map, like one zone map, one meta event. And there's an automatic level sync that also happens when you go to lower level or beginning zone. So the content is still somewhat always challenging. Hint, hint, that, kind of resin random people sometimes. Although there is more than just combat. There's also a pretty extensive crafting system as well. Each character you make is limited to 2 professions only. You can buy a slot from the cash shop to increase that, but normally you'll need multiple toons if you want to be able to craft all the armors and all the weapons, because only certain things like leatherworker can craft only medium. Now there are ways that you can instant level up a character. Usually you get most of these toons of knowledge through World v World. However, I wouldn't recommend making a new toon at level 1 and then just instant leveling it to 80, as you'll find yourself dying to some of the game mechanics and some of the meta events in the end zones. It's just a better idea to get a little better understanding of the character. Now there's also fractals, which are kind of like mini dungeons. There's zone events, you have world boss events, 5-player dungeons, 10-man raids, squad content, which can go up to 50 players per squad. There's also living story meta event maps, which are almost kind of like huge outside raids, and it's up to 50 people plus at a time, and it can get very fun and very hectic, but in a good way. So there's all different types of content here for everybody, no matter what you prefer to do. And if you are more of a combat person, I definitely do recommend trying out that live action camera. It is fun. I got it. We'll go back to mid. Alright, now there are 2 main ways to PvP here in Guild Wars 2. What you're seeing on the screen is a 5v5 arena where all the gear is equalized, you have access to all your skills, and you're given a choice of what stats you want to be primary. So nobody is obscenely overpowered or overgeared than anyone else in that sense. So this would be the considered the more fair mode, because lack of gear is irrelevant, just honestly lack of knowledge. Now, the other mode of PvP is World vs. World, and this is my personal favorite. And it's just like it sounds. You have 3 different servers that fight each other on 4 main maps non-stop. Now obviously Siege is the main goal here, where you want to take down walls and keeps, and then eventually you get on the inside and there's kind of like a semi-boss that you'll fight, and then once your team kills it, your server kills it, you stand in a little node, and of course you turn it and that keep flips to yours. Same thing goes with the supply depots and some of the other things. It's actually a very fun way to play, especially if you like playing, bigger team versus team fights instead of some of the more smaller like 5v5 arenas. It's, kind of difficult. You won't really get a 1v1 situation except, like I said, during off hours and peak, some off-peak times, I'm sorry. And unlike arena, your spec definitely matters here. Your gear matters here, and some little nuances and things, all those add up. And as you'll see when you start getting into it, especially your first few times, you'll run into some players that you're just like, what the is up with this guy? You can't hit him, you can't do anything. I mean, there are some quote unquote, some of those cancerous builds that are out there that people, will run, just to kind of be aggravating and things of that nature. But I mean, that's, you're going to have that in any PvP game. I mean, it's hard to get away from, meta builds and things of that nature. But for the most part, every character has an equal opportunity to kill everybody. I wouldn't necessarily say that any one particular character is overpowered over the rest. Now, I definitely don't want you guys to get the wrong idea here. I think the PvP in this game is one of the best, and it is fun as fuck. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you found the information helpful and useful. And if you did, please make sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, and we'll see y'all next time.